Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Player One. Why is it special? Because we haven't named it yet, and that's fine. That's how we start things, guys. Don't ever name anything at the beginning, otherwise you'll be restricted. I'm here with Connor and Nick of Player One fame, and I am Dem. Lovely to see you all. And we're going to be doing a little bit of discussing of the Zelda things in combination with looking through this tasty little book. So, first of all, say hi, guys.
How we doing?
Hello.
How are we feeling this evening? Fine evening.
God, I'm really excited to talk about something that I don't know anything about. So I'm off to a great start, guys.
Since when has Player One ever done anything where we didn't know what we were talking about? I mean, really?
No, this is the first time it's ever happened.
Guarantee.
So first time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There you go, Nick. You look like an ashamed parent, and that's what we want here at Player One. So
I'm just thinking back to my time on season 3, like 2 years ago.
Scroll
Oh,
back through our Spotify podcasts to see what that is like. Guys, always check up on our podcasts. Find them everywhere where you stream. We love our plugs, and all our socials as well, where we are Player One Sin. That's spelt out as well. It's not like P1. It's like PLAYERONE. Yes, I had to think about that, and that's fine.
You know what? It's okay. It's Friday night when we're recording. It's been a long week, and you know what? We just want to talk Zelda. That's all we want to do at this point. So you know what? As the least qualified person to talk about Zelda, I feel like the most qualified person to throw things at you two who know Zelda more than me and just answer them. So let's talk about you two, your first experiences with the Zelda franchise.
Oh, well, would you like to go first, Nick?
Sure. All right. My first experience with Zelda was actually Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Huge.
I was very young at that time, and I didn't really... Zelda was like the one franchise I did not have any connection with, because I did have a Nintendo 64 with all of the essentials like Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, everything you could dream of except Zelda. So it was always this sort of missing part. And so in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, they actually had little game demos, and one of them was Ocarina of Time, where you can play it for 5 minutes, and then the game Smash Bros. Brawl will alert you saying it's been 5 minutes.
Wait, really? I didn't know they had games on that.
Yeah, that's
sick.
Legit. It's actually kind of wild. So I just sort of dicked around Kakiri Forest until
for 5 minutes.
I couldn't do anything, and so I started getting more into it. They announced the 3DS in 2011, and they also announced Ocarina of Time 3D was coming out, and I was really excited, so I decided to emulate it as a child, and I played through up until the Fire Temple, and then eventually I got I got Ocarina of Time 3D, and I actually got it before I got the console. That's how excited I was for it, and then I played it. So that would probably be my first big experience with Zelda, and then I played a little bit of Wind Waker. I tried Twilight Princess. I really enjoyed A Link Between Worlds. Skyward Sword was disappointing, even as a young kid. And then,
but think about it, Nick. It's the first Link with tracksuit pants.
I love that, but he was also right-handed, and I just don't relate to that, you know.
How can you relate to that? Seriously, as a right-handed person? Are you left-handed?
No, I'm left-handed, so I always
can't relate to it. Sorry, there we go. I knew that.
I was always keen for Link being left-handed. Yeah,
I'm ambidextrous, so I'm on the fence either way.
So I started getting out of Zelda. So I think it was like a 2-3 year kind of phase, and then I started getting out of it. The last game I really enjoyed was A Link Between Worlds, and then from there I just started to dislike Zelda. I just didn't really... my main problem was I did not like the dungeons, even though that's the entire point of Zelda. and I just sort of phased myself out of it up until now. So, where I've re-experienced Ocarina of Time. But that's my story. Dem,
Yeah,
where does yours begin?
Well, I feel like you had a bit of a crushed introduction there. It just sort of like it all came at once, and then it kept happening. No, in comparison, I was introduced to Zelda probably in the early thousands when my brother and his friends were like going to each other's places playing like N64, and because I didn't have one, I was a girl, so I didn't have one. It was my brother's. It wasn't like I wasn't allowed to use it. It was his property. But the number of times I just watched him play it, and then it wasn't until I remember having a file and being really bad at it, never was able to beat my own bosses, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until Wind Waker where I actually was allowed to play a bit more. Like, I was always allowed to file, but I was quite young when I was playing, so I never really made it that far. And Wind Waker was the one where I actually went really well in it, started beating bosses, was really good. Keep in mind I was 6 or 7, so it wasn't really oh damn, you're not allowed to do that because you're a girl. It was more like, oh, you're 7. It's hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm running around Kiri Forest. I used to play on my brother's file, but it wasn't until probably I was 10 that I actually ended up beating either game. I beat Wind Waker before I beat Ocarina. That's my shade, because Ocarina is supposed to be my favorite game, but I was definitely better at Wind Waker because that game has some smooth combat. Seriously, I enjoy the combat of that. But yeah, and then from there I've played every single one of them except Triforce Heroes and the CDI games, and probably some Four Swords also.
Don't get me wrong, it's always a life achievement of mine to go through Wanda Gamelon and the Faces of Evil, but I only have one experience, well, make that 2. I played 10 hours of Breath of the Wild and wasn't the biggest fan of it, and I also played Link's Awakening and liked it a lot.
Yay!
But I'm unqualified to talk about Ocarina of Time specifically, and I want to understand, as an idiot who doesn't know anything about gaming, why is Ocarina of Time lauded as the best game in the world, even though it is clearly quite a flawed game?
Well, before we hit that up, we might introduce the second part of this podcast, which is not only a podcast, it's a video. People who've been listening to us prattle on may have noticed that there's this book here. This is a book. I don't know if I got it. I think I ordered it when I was in high school because I saw it on eBay. And I was like, that looks sick. It is from 2001, and it is a how-to-draw book. And in classic how-to-draw book fashion, you get, as we put it before, no neck Link. We get Link with a couple of details, Link with way too many details and hard-to-track details, and then full drawing. So I thought it would be nice to choose one, and then we can draw along to it while discussing Zelda scenes.
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm already started. I'm creating Lonk.
Lonk, I love that.
Lonk.
No, it's great.
Lonk.
So Nick will be drawing digitally, and I'll be drawing on this here piece of paper, and then Connor will be drawing behind the scenes with a revolutionary image to show. So did we hear the preference of drawing, darling? You can do a myriad of things. They've got everything in this, from Hylian Soldier to Ganon to Deku Scrub to Don't Forget to Practice Link.
Don't forget to practice Link sounds kind of cool.
He's pretty detailed. We were complaining about overly detailed drawings. He's one of them.
Yeah.
There's all sorts, actually. I've drawn Volvagia before. Kind of different.
Following this guide?
Not this guy, no. I just drew a picture of it from a reference image. Always drawing references. Kids don't care what anyone says. It's good. It's useful. So yeah, I don't know. I personally don't really feel like drawing a Goron because there's a lot of feet in that.
Well, I guess if it's the beginning, we should maybe start with a Link or a Zelda.
Link.
I feel like that'd be on point.
Let's go.
I feel like we should all do a Link and just compare the 3
Well, let's do
with
this
one another, just for some funsies.
I like that. Cool beans.
Yeah,
well,
just so.
young Link it be. Just fold him in half. There you go.
There we go.
Lovely, and that's where that will go, and that's where that will go. Great. So what was your question again, Connor, before all the cover?
So my question was, Ocarina of Time has been lauded as one of the best games ever made, whilst obviously, keep in mind, I've played about 10 minutes of Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, so I don't know why it's considered one of the greatest games of all time when it came out during a time where a lot of the games don't age very well. And I would consider the Ocarina of Time to be one of those games.
I can see that.
Why is it heralded in such high regard?
I think it actually, like, having played it again, the only things that don't really hold up are the graphics and some of the music quality, I would say. Because, you're all, the camera angles and stuff, because I've been recently playing it, the camera angles and such are quite dynamic. Actually, I forgot how dynamic they try to be with it. They try to be very, they do lots of upward pans and stuff, so that, like, they'll suddenly jump from a pot of flowers to Link's face and then to Zelda's face, except they're all flat panels with a texture on them. So it's like I feel like you sort of lose the power of it, possibly. I don't know. I feel like it does hold up in its own way, because it sort of holds up in that, how DS games tend to jump down that road of quite a janky style of displaying themselves. I think that's why it was released on the 3DS, in all honesty, because it uses a camera style very similar to what Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire did. They'll slip the pans in and stuff like that to sort of make something that's not dynamic seem dynamic.
Well, I was actually specifically asking more so about original hardware, playing it on an N64.
Oh yeah.
So the 3DS, from what I would assume, there was quality of life upgrades. I want to know specifically on the N64.
Well, I feel like, I don't know about you, Nick, but when I play it, I love that kind of, that sound where it's coming out of like an old speaker that's also the kind of speaker that could produce the internet log-on sound, the like, and like the squeaky noises and shit like that.
Are we talking about the N64?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god, this leg. This first drawing. I'm trying to do it drawing for drawing, and I'm gonna be frank. I don't get it. I don't get how this person's done it.
Well, Nick, have you played this game on original hardware, or have you specifically played it through emulators and a 3DS?
I played it, so my genuine experience that I put in high regard was with the 3DS version, and I did play it on an emulator before the 3D, like just before like restarting with the 3DS version when I initially played it. So comparing it from an emulator where possibly, I'm not sure how emulators would work, but I would assume there would be some level of quality of life improvements over original hardware in terms of controls. Moving that over to the 3DS, what was the big difference you saw in terms of like visuals as well?
Aiming was so much better on the 3DS. Oh my god, I've gone back to using a stick to aim. It's nothing, no comparison. Being able to aim with a gyroscope, it makes so many of the games so much easier. Just like the fine, minute, even just being able to like lift the remote slightly and aim is just so, it's just like nice. It's just like, recovery, thank goodness.
Nick, you'd have that same experience?
Absolutely, because when my emulator experience is pretty hazy because I was like 10. But I was using a keyboard, like a laptop to play it, so it wasn't really ideal. But the 3DS version with its gyros actually, it makes aiming and shooting legitimately really fun. And I would say it helps you engage it helps you engage with the game more. And when it comes to when you asked about when I guess playing it on an emulator, the only thing that would be different it would slightly run better because it's just better hardware. It would it honestly would probably still run at 15 to 20 frames just like it did on N64 unless you hack it to work better in 30 FPS or 60 FPS. And if you've ever seen footage of that game running at 60, it's kind of wild. Everything's way too fast.
Because the internal clock works on the frame system as well. So if you speed up the frames, you speed up time essentially. And then you really are playing the Ocarina of bloody Time, if I do say so myself.
Because I was going to say, the N64, despite being a 64-bit machine, and it was not, I wouldn't say it was an incredibly powerful machine.
Oh, hell no. It's like a calculator.
In today's standard, yes, but I also think back then it wasn't as a powerful system as it could be. And I think that's partially because Nintendo tried to do a disk drive, which helped improve memory capabilities, which fell through like a puddle of bricks. And I'm speaking to someone who grew up as a PlayStation user, and who didn't properly own a Nintendo console. Pretty much took the Switch.
Yeah, that's just crazy because in my head you're the Switch guy.
Yeah, right?
Like you're the Nintendo Switch guy, even though
because
you stay.
The Switch is like best of both worlds for me. Obviously, I haven't been given it as much love because I bought an Xbox Series S and I've been playing through the hell out of that. But I'm turning into Phil Spencer's boy. But when we're going
this
back
is my boy
to
Connor.
World premiere. When we go back to Ocarina of Time specifically, what would you say is something that hasn't aged well? If there's anything super specific, and then something that it still ages well today.
The one I can think of, and personally, it's not really a problem for me. It could be a problem for more of the person who was expecting more. It might be Hyrule Field, which technically is probably one of the first sort of open world areas that you could explore. But by today's standard, it's quite barren and there's nothing to do in it. That would be something that that hasn't aged and is not as engaging as it probably initially was at the time. But I personally never had a problem with it. I personally still kind of get that kind of whimsical experience of being on a horse and traveling through a wasteland, or the field, even though there's nothing really to do. But
and Nick, something that has aged well.
I think even the Nintendo 64 version as well. I think it's aesthetic. I think it's aesthetic, and I think if something that's aged well, it's aesthetic, and the 3DS version actually absolutely brings that to life, because the 3DS version is, I think the best way I've ever seen someone describe Ocarina of Time 3D was, it's like how you would envision originally playing Ocarina of Time. In the terms of when you see these polygons, and then you see like Link as this polygon, kind of slightly ugly but kind of cool looking character, and then you see what the 3DS version does with like that character design and model and all that stuff. It's how you've always sort of envisioned it in your head, similar to like how, when you play an 8-bit or 16-bit game, you have an idea, you have your own imagination contributes to the art. I feel like that's something about, I think its aesthetic even back then is quite, it's not ahead of its time, but I don't think it's aged. And I think we'll probably talk about later, which I think is absolutely timeless, is its really deep story, surprisingly deep story, and all of the subtext that goes with it. But that's what I think.
We'll definitely get to that. But Dem, I want to go to you and say something that's aged well and something that's aged poorly from this game.
Well, having played it like very, very, very recently, I would say the textures. Like, I agree that aesthetically it works quite well, but with an eye of now somebody who plays games in the year 2021, I see, instead of seeing the mingling of all these pixels creating one color, I see individual pixels. So grays are suddenly like these red, like you see it in a lot of PS1 games as well, like where the texture is so, it's like it's dancing a line between muddied and rainbow effect, and it's not, it doesn't draw you out, it just sort of, if you notice it, you're like, oh, that's gross looking, yuck.
PS1 games specifically, yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's an aesthetic now, like in more than what Nick was talking about, in a sense that like people aim for that in no other way can I describe it, like a lo-fi, a low fidelity look, and that's like the same can be said about the music in that respect. The sound has this low quality charm, yet even my housemate this morning was saying like, God, the music in this game's like really good, and she wasn't even looking at it. And she was like, when was this game brought out? Like 2005? And I'm like, 1998. And she was like, seriously? Pretty good for the vibe. And I was like, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was sort of
now, Nick, you referenced it before, story. Now, I don't know what happens in Ocarina of Time because I only played about 10 minutes of it and was like, okay.
I will give you the quick rundown and
give me the Spark Notes version.
I think this would be spoilers, even though I don't really feel like it's an over 24-year-old game. I'm sure everyone will be fine with it. Yeah, it's not on the surface level, it's not really particularly deep or, plot twisty or anything, but essentially basically the game opens up with a vision of the antagonist Ganondorf running outside a Hyrule castle, and you see a young boy with a cap who is Link. You see him kind of startled or freaked out by this vision of Ganondorf running outside the castle, while also you see in this vision he's chasing Princess Zelda and her bodyguard Impa. And so basically the whole gist, if there was the Netflix blurb, it's essentially about a kid. It's about a kid from a forest who pretty much steps up to be a hero by collecting various relics and using essentially a form of time travel to go into the future and save the future from the antagonist Ganondorf. And the ending of the game is Link defeats Ganondorf, who transforms into his beast-like version Ganon, which you will find in all the previous Zelda games, like the kind of big kind of pig monster design. And essentially Princess Zelda of the future decides to use the Ocarina of Time, which is, this ocarina allows Link to do certain things like fast travel in the game and unlock, and it has a lot of gameplay value.
And I think you described it to me the other day as they hide it all in this jargon that this ocarina is magical. In reality, it's all these things we've grown to love today, which are like fast travel, like quick time passing, all sorts of other things like that we now are multiplexing games. They're all hidden within the story of the game. I feel like you could almost describe it as like how a good dungeon master works, his day-to-day things into a D&D match. How instead of I think I was listening to one of the guys from College Humor talk about this. I think his name is it Brendan who runs their D&D. Fact checked. Somebody tell me if that's true or not later. He was talking about...
We'll tell you later.
Yeah, talking about how in D&D, if one of your heroes rolls a bunch of ones, a novice DM would be like, oh, you're rolling like one after one, you suck. But like a champion DM, a more experienced DM could incorporate that in to the story and be all like, you're enraged. You miss every time. And it's like that. It's that idea of like mythologizing such simple aspects that make it so interesting.
Essentially, the Ocarina of Time is a bunch of game mechanics, the very useful game mechanics you see in every game today on a menu, but in Ocarina of Time, it's a part of the experiences, and it's quite an organic. It's quite an organic way of introducing all of these mechanics without telling you, hey, fast travel. Hey, do this, or hey, you should use this. It's more like maybe you should play this song to get somewhere. And essentially, in the plot of Ocarina of Time, the ocarina is a sought after sort of relic, or like a object that Zelda possesses, and then gives you, the player Link, to assist you on your journey. And so at the very end of the game, Zelda feels bad that everything that happened was her fault, and she decides to send Link back 7 years into the past, where he initially was, where he was from, because she feels like she robbed him of his childhood. And so the game ends with Link going back 7 years. The Master Sword that Link initially used to travel into the future, is now set back in place in the Temple of Time, where it is found. And Link's little companion, Navi, decides to flee, or like to fly away. And Link walks off. And at the very end of the game, after all of the the staff roll and all of the visions you see of the future that you saved, at the very end, you get to hear little Zelda's lullaby play while you see Link walk up to Zelda for the very first time again. And then it's implied in the later games that Link prevents everything from happening. The journey that he just went on, he prevents that from happening, which is kind of nice. But
it's
until you start realizing stuff.
Dem, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, like this is the subtext aspect, like that's the story. You see it. Zelda basically decides that she's the villain of the tale and feels absolutely awful. She destroyed Hyrule. The whole reason that Ganon gets the power of the Triforce to ruin the world, so Link even has to fully save it, is because Zelda tells, and actually to be fair, the Great Deputy Tree tells him this too, to go and collect the spiritual stones and unlock the Temple of Time. And that is the only reason Ganon ever gets into the Temple of Time, because you could argue that Link was preventing Ganon from ever getting the spiritual stones by collecting them, but by delivering them straight to where he needed them, it's like, Link, hey, did you guys even do your research? Like, seriously? And then as soon as Link is sealed away for 7 years because he's not old enough to be the hero, the world basically ends. It's like, Link, if you had just waited like 3 birthdays, we would be fine. But here we are. I don't know, I feel like it's one of those like, oh gosh, if the heroes hadn't been so content on saving the world, would we be in a different scenario here? Would the world be different? It's there's so many layers to how cooked the story gets and is, and just how like debilitating it is for the characters. Like, because Link in the end, the reason Majora's Mask exists is because when Zelda sends Link back to the past to live out his childhood, he's an adult in a kid's body. He doesn't know what to do with it, so he leaves. And he leaves to go find Navi, but Navi he'll probably never end up finding because she's vanished. I think in the mythology of Majora's Mask is more cooked, but in the sense of job done, Navi departs to go and lead a different life, and Link journeying into the Lost Woods is a hint to die, because the Lost Woods is not a place where non-Kokiris can live. They die if they stay there without a fairy. It's a very, very, very sad story in the end. Very sad.
And a lot of what you said sounds like fan theory, but it's all of this stuff is oddly specifically woven into the world. So it's really hard to say all of this is just very coincidental when it's just on it. All of this is on purpose. Like I always used to think, why does Navi leave at the end? Like even as a kid, I was just like, why?
Yeah, why are you leaving?
What's wrong with you?
Did that
and then
to you?
even why is it like the Kakiri, which are basically the kids that kind of look like Link? It's like a Peter Pan thing. They're immortal. Like if they leave the forest, they don't grow up, and if they leave the forest, they perish. So they're kids forever, and that's where you start the game. Link believing he is one of them. And it's like, why is that's an oddly specific thing to put into this story. Like, I don't understand why you would, why would you do that? But this and a lot of other things have like, it's all like a connected like it's all connected and it's all on purpose. And then because you finally understand that all of this stuff is on purpose, it then becomes a very, on the surface level, as a child, like when I initially played this game, I thought it was just really cool fantasy story with time travel, and it definitely is that. But realizing what occurs when you start really thinking about it, it's quite depressing. It's depressing if you try to find it. Well, not if you try to find it, if you really take it in, you realize kind of how oddly depressing this is, even with its childlike charm that it has, especially, you know, on the Nintendo 64 as well. But
agreed.
Yeah.
It is truly cooked how it really destroys this child. This whole story is about how this child is told of his destiny. It's that classic Destiny story. It's like the Cinderella story, the Destiny story, but nobody's better for it except the people of Hyrule. Like Link in Ocarina of Time is really the most done over hero. It's like, I think there's even mythology in Twilight Princess where this Link we're talking about right now is hinted to be the guardian who saves is like the guardian. Why do I keep saying guardian? The sword dude, the dude who teaches you the sword moves in Twilight Princess. When you turn
the hero shade.
That's what it's called. And I remember playing that game and being like, is this Majora's Mask Link? Because he's talking about a lot of Majora's Mask-y kind of stuff and hinting at a lot of stuff, and a lot of these songs sound like Ocarina of Time-y kind of songs. What's going on here? And it was. Fun fact. Not so confirmed.
Well, Dem, I can tell you what's going on here. Something that isn't as depressing and as cooked. Let's talk about music. I want to hear music.
Oh, yeah? Have you heard much?
Tell me. Well, I haven't.
No, none?
Nope.
Not at all? You sure you haven't heard like
10 minutes? 10 minutes of Ocarina of Time on the 3DS and never touched it again, so I don't know.
You're a champion. We all marvel at your brilliance.
God bless you, Connor.
God bless you. Well, I feel like I'd say...
True.
Well, I think my favourite Ocarina song, the song that you play, would probably be like the Minuet of the Forest. I feel like you don't play it very often, and it's a very jumpy, fun song. And I feel like the music from the Forest Temple is also one of my favourites. But of course, like the Fairy Fountain is also really nice. It's just like this nice, like, there's the difference between like the songs that are like songs, and then there are the songs that are like more like about ambience. So, you know, like the music from the Forest Temple is very like, it's very eerie, it's very spooky, it's got lots of like different like sounds in it that are a bit like sticks or rocks rubbing against each other, like it's all very percussion-y and such. And then there's songs like the Fairy Fountain song, which is played on a harp, which is very melodic, and it's a classic tune because it's like the tune that's been carried over through most of the Zelda games today. It's that classic like And that's another aspect. But it's very interesting how I feel like Ocarina of Time is the turning point for music in temples in Zelda games, because most of the temples in this game try to do something quite ambient and less like chiptune-y. And then you see that more in Wind Waker, where all the temples just use like a drum beat. Like in Wind Waker, there's the Dragon Roost Cavern theme, which is literally just like, and it's like that's the whole time, and then the ambient sounds of the volcano around you, and it's all about building the vibe, so to speak. So yeah, I feel like the music in this game is very interesting. Nick, what would you say is your favorite Ocarina song?
I think it's hard because pretty much all of it's good.
Truth.
I think I will say, as a kid, I absolutely disliked all of the dungeon music because I didn't want atmosphere. I wanted catchy tunes.
Yeah.
But now playing it, pretty much, I remember initially just disliking the hell out of it, but I quickly came to really enjoy and love all of the atmosphere. You can literally play any of the dungeon music in any kind of situation, and it kind of works to some extent.
It's kind of nice.
But
I think remixes too that people have brought out recently.
Yeah, I think my favorite track, the track I've been going to since finishing the game, which I finished it last week. It's been the Staff Roll.
Oh,
which is
what a vibe!
It's a really melancholy sort of aftermath, epilogue sounding medley of some of the other tracks, and it all kind of comes together beautifully.
Agreed.
And so that's the one I've been going to of late, pretty much.
I vibe that very hard. I've given up on being super detailed with this drawing, by the way. I just don't draw like the artists from Zelda or this guy. This guy is like wild.
You know what? That's fair. But you know what? You're making good progress with it. But as we eventually start to wind down, I just want to grab some extra words from both of you. What do you think is this game's legacy in the Zelda franchise?
Oh, I feel like it's the classic. It's the classic 3D. I mean, it not only defined how 3D Zeldas would function, it had to blast its way through the dark, essentially, figure out how to work in a world where top-down was now no longer the hip thing. Like 3D gaming, Connor, you'd know as a PS1 kind of lad, it was rough for a long time. It didn't make a lot of sense. It was hard to control. Camera angles were frustrating, if not impossible. And this game tried its very best and succeeded in some ways, failed in others, to create something that was copable and also something that is now being evolved, which is, I'm talking about Z targeting here, and I know people will say like, oh, it's friggin' useless. But it's not, I don't think.
It's fun.
I think it probably saves the combat in some ways, because it's really hard to aim otherwise, or even recenter the camera without a camera stick. That was something that was sorely needed, and it was impossible because there was only one stick on the controller, but bloody oath was it needed. But no, it solves a problem that was later solved in a different way, and then Z targeting was used to fix it further. But it's a legacy in terms of how games are made and how games function.
Yeah, it's one of, yeah. I think games from the 5th gen, I think the 5th gen is PS1, 64, Sega Saturn, and I'd put Dreamcast in there as well, but there's a lot of game design there that's just quite influential, and all of this stuff gets used, still gets used today, or it's built upon. I remember years ago when I attempted a Dark Souls game, I was like, this is just Ocarina of Time combat. This is legitimately just if you took an expanded Ocarina of Time's waiting, sitting, Z targeting, that's literally just a game. If you expanded that and made it difficult and gave it a life of its own, that's like playing that. I was like, this is from Zelda.
It really
Even some
is
stuff
like that. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I really like the aesthetic of Dark Souls.
I've got a question for you, Dem, though.
Yeah.
What is do you have a sort of personal experience with this game? Like, did this game do something? Like, it's kind of hard, it might sound a bit weird, but like, did this game kind of do anything for you, as in did it inspire, influence you or help you out at any time, or because personally I had an experience of that recently, and I was just sort of wondering, because I think that's the power of this game, to be honest.
I agree. I think it's such an engaging story. It used to be, I tell people that I used to, and my parents hated me for this, I used to leave, when I was quite little, I had it in my room on a little tiny CRT I got from Chicken Feed. And I'd leave it on all day, so when I came home it would be there for me. Because I found school very difficult when I was really little. I did. I found reading boring, and I found school hard. Now I don't, but at the time it was awful. But you know, it was really hard, and I didn't like it. And Zelda was one of those things where like I wanted to read, I wanted to understand, I wanted to listen, and I wanted to know more. And I feel like it defined a lot of my childhood. It also, like, you know, lots of people at my school tended to think I was weird for liking video games, and that's cool, and they can think that, and I don't care, because I had a great time, and the stories behind in this game are incredible, and they've stuck with me. I mean, like, if you look at my Instagram, Things by Dem, you'll just see how influential it is, because during the pandemic, I'm not even kidding, the thing that got me drawing again was Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. The art from those games is so influential. It actually was one of the main things I used to draw when I was a kid. I used to keep a suitcase of printouts of all of the enemies from Wind Waker under my bed, and it all started with Ocarina. I think my mum actually thought it was trash, and somebody threw it out, and I was very upset. That's fine. I don't care. It doesn't hurt me to this day.
Well, Dan, something that's not trash from this game is the Metacritic score there. It currently sits at a 9.1, but we're going to go to the opposite of that. I want to hear some negative reviews, and I've found a couple that I think would absolutely laugh the socks off you two. I've scoured through the sewers that is Metacritic to find some fantastic negative reviews of Zelda,
don't you, Connor? Ocarina
of Time. Listen, it's a great source to find terrible reviews, and we've got one here from Keybot1990. It's not a Wii Play minigame. 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 It's not a Wii Play minigame.
That's a bit wild sounding. Does it actually just say that?
Yep, that's exactly what it says, and it says it 3 more times. I got tired of saying it.
Oh my god! What?
And that was posted this year.
Well, it isn't. I agree. Yes. What was the score they gave it?
Yeah, 0.
Oh. Metacritic.
This one here is from most dislike user. This happened on June 29th, 2021. I don't actually hate it this much, but I need to balance the reviews up as they are way too good. 0 out of 10.
I love Metacritic. It makes me really happy. I've given Link a double chin here.
Oh, beautiful. All right, and here we have our final one, because there's very few negative reviews of this game on Metacritic, and I've just picked the trolliest one of them all. Didn't like it at all. Overhyped. What in the name of the Lord is this game? 9.1. Really? Question mark. And that was from Truth Be Bold, or Truth Be Told, 1981. And that happened just last month in June 16, 2021.
We love.
You live, love, and you laugh. And actually, you know what? Here we go. Here's a 6 out of 10. How about that? Something different. A 6 out of 10. This is from Grey Man with 2 N's. Couldn't make it past Child Link. I even had a hard time getting anywhere with tons of help, or without tons of help.
Struggled
It's an
with
okay
first
game.
Water Temple.
But I like the end part. It's okay.
It's okay. Oh, poor Bean needed a strategy guide.
But Dem, I can see you've really put in a lot of time and hard work into your drawing. Let's see what the final product. Let's see that final product.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to dry so I can get rid of all the pencil lines. I've jumped the gun far too many times with ink. It's not fair. Ink is really rude. But
I'll show you the masterpiece that I did whilst we wait for that to dry. I've drawn Lonk, and I've accidentally given him a pompadour instead of a tunic.
Oh, he's great.
So it's now Elvis.
He's holding
It's now Elvis if he had a love child with
I love him holding the love heart.
Link.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Piece.
That's supposed to be a shield. That's supposed to be a shield. I just can't draw.
Yeah,
I just can't draw.
Isn't it? Truly. I love it.
And he's got Navi just up at his corner annoying him.
It's beautiful. I think you've
I know, right?
to create
Nick, how is your drawing gone?
I started and stopped many times.
You were saying, like, I was struggling to think and draw, so I don't know how you were going, because you're doing digital art, which is hard, I think. You know what? Personally.
Not bad at all, Nick. It looks like if not Zelda, what am I saying? If Link just sort of went all Shadow the Hedgehoggy.
Sketching Bellas.
Wait, are you sharing? I can't see anything.
I sent it on Messenger. I can't.
You can. To me, I see Shadow the Hedgehog in there. I see a little bit of Shadow. I feel like if we gave him an AK-47, he would star in his own game.
And
a Chaos Emerald.
Oh, hot dog.
I should probably use that. I was gonna say I'll probably use that animation that I made. I'll chuck it in somewhere on this video.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I feel like the two of us have very different styles. Like I went for a very passive Link, and you went for a very active Link.
Yeah.
I definitely have a more passive style.
I would say Nick went more anime Link.
Yeah,
just what definitely. I draw.
So. What you draw, no,
like so anime, and then Dem, finally your finished product.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yep.
No, you got the stylization though.
Oh, we'll keep the. I want to take a picture with the greylight on. So you get it like this. I'll send a video through of it with the final look when it's like high qual, because the zoom.
Yikes. Final Link. It'll be Final Link.
Final Link. But if I hold that a bit closer, that's kind of what he ended up like.
Beautiful.
That's nice.
Yeah, came out real.
I like
nice.
it. I like the way you do faces.
I do too. It took me ages to realise that I just don't care about what people think of my faces, because, like, you know, you have to spend hours on eyes, and you can never get them bloody even. So you just do 2 ovals, and people go, "Wow, that's great. That's so cool, so artistic," and I'm like,
well, it worked.
Hey, listen.
Well, one thing that is final is we have reached the final chapter of this episode as I close the book. Will we see another one of these? Lord knows, it's Player One. Anything can happen on Player One. We had a fire alarm go off.
Indeed. It might be a fun way to do Linktober. We don't know.
Oh, Linktober? Oh my god. A whole month dedicated to Link? Well, listen, we're already in July, so not too long till Linktober. But as we sign off, do we have any final words?
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, beautiful. Fantastic. Love it. Now, if you want to check out this podcast amongst all of our other podcasts and specials, go check us out on the podcast realm at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Omni, wherever you can find amazing podcasts just like this one. Go find us at Player One Sin and go check us out on the social media as well, the Twitters, the Instagrams, it's all there. Player One Sin, you know where to find it. And whilst you're at it, go check us out on the Sin website at sin.org.au. Will you find an amazing drawing book like the one Dem has? Absolutely not, but you're going to find cracker content on the website. And as we sign off, go tune in Monday night, 8 till 11 p.m. We're a 3-hour show now. We're a better 3 hours than Monday Night Raw. We're a better 3 hours than any Avengers movie could ever ask for.
That was incredible. Yeah. God, I'm impressed by that. That was a true rattle.
I can go for longer and longer and longer if you need me to, but we're going to sign off.
Job.
I know, right? It's like I need to change career paths. But up until then, we're going to see you guys on Monday night, 8 till 11 p.m. Go check us out. And if we do another podcast like this, guess what? We're going to do it. We don't care. We got our own time to do things. We're adults.
Love it.
We're adults now.
We're adults. You know? I'm an adult.
All right.
I need it.
So everyone, go to bed. It's Friday night. Go enjoy your weekend and play video games, huh?
Indeed. I'm going to go play some Ocarina of Time and sort out what's for dinner.
Oh, very fantastic. Nice. Everyone, we will catch you on the next episode of Player One.
Indeed. Bye.
Bye. Beautiful time.